Mr. Shi?
Here.
Mr. Errico?
Here.
Mrs. Ward?
Here.
Mrs. Maroney?
Here.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Patel?
Here.
Mrs. Conway?
Here.
Dr. Chen?
Here.
All present by Mrs. Peng.
No, Mrs. Conway isn't here.
Opening statement. The New Jersey Open Public
I
Meetings
see.
Act
Oh,
was
I'm
enacted to
sorry.
ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies of which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board of Education administrative offices. Copies of the notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 3rd, 2019. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and the applicable state regulations. Again, as you guys all know, we're in the summer, so we're in the combined session. So we're gonna go to the closed session right away. Dan?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances really exist, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Edison as follows. 1, the public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the herein specified subject matters. 2, the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Attorney-client privilege discussion regarding board policies, litigation brought up by former employees, SLEO contract, township litigation, student matters, Edison Wetlands Association contract, ETA grievances, PERC and unfair labor practices, and personnel matters. Under personnel, we're going to be discussing resignations and terminations, retirements, appointments, leaves of absences, changes of status, transfers, longevity, substitute staff, FCCLA appointments, freshman orientation, coaching appointments, coaching changes, and job descriptions. 3, it is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matters have been made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists, and 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
All right. Can I have a motion? Okay. Mr. Arago, Mrs. Barone.
Dr. Chen?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
So for now, let's just say an hour, but we'll let you guys know if we go over. Okay, so we're gonna reconvene. So can I have a motion for that? Okay, Dr. Chen, Mr. Patel.
Dr. Chen?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway? Mrs. Conway, you present?
Elizabeth?
Here.
Okay.
Where is she?
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Ms. Maroney?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Here.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Here.
All present.
All right, so first, we're gonna approve the minutes for July 22nd and July 29th. The minutes for July 22nd and July 29th.
So
Yes.
Mrs. Conway's hand.
Need a motion?
Oh, a motion?
Mrs. Conway's hand went up.
All right, she's second. So who's first? Okay.
Who's first?
Ralph. Ralph first, and Mrs. Elizabeth second.
Okay, it's for the approval for the minutes.
Just a minute, yes.
Dr. Chen?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Minutes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
All right, so before we open up for the public comments on the resolutions, I'm gonna have Margaret walk us through. So then we're gonna open up for public comments. Okay, Margaret?
Thank you, Mr. Shi. Good evening, everyone. Most important time of year as we prepare for back to school. I'd like to update the board, things that have been happening, as well as the general public. So preparation for the opening of schools. In addition to Dan Michaud, Ken Taylor, and me monitoring the readiness of buildings for the opening of school, administrative teamwork includes Ralph Barca ensuring technology is up and running, Rich Benedict working closely with Beninda Mahabir, Gail Polakowski, and Dr. Conklin to oversee enrollment numbers and transportation for our new and returning students, which as of today is 16,752.
So how much?
16,752. That's as of today. The board committees have been working diligently with the board attorney to review and comment on the need for several sidebar agreements that are up for board consideration. There are settlement agreements. The board is asked to consider 2 settlement agreements which are in the best interest of the district. A resolution will be considered by the board this evening to terminate an agreement so that the receptacles can be removed from Board of Education property. The YMCA contracts for Edison High School and J.P. Stevens swim teams. The board will contemplate approving the YMCA contracts so that our high school students can participate on swim teams. The PSAT approval of a delayed opening. The board is asked to approve a change in schedule on October 16th for a 3-hour delayed opening at both high schools for freshmen and senior students, so that a proper testing environment can be provided for sophomores and juniors to take the PSAT. The approval of administration of the PSAT, grades 8-9, PSAT 8-9, pardon me, to grade 8 students. This proposal is to administer the PSAT 8-9 to all grade 8 students in December of 2019 in order to measure what students have already learned, shows them whether or not they're on track for college, and lets them know where they need the most improvement. Scores will be reported to parents and are used as part of the grouping procedure criteria for the 2021 school year. School Improvement Panel, or SCIP as it is commonly known, is mandated annually to ensure teacher effectiveness. Members of the SCIP panel for every school are available as an attachment and are up for board approval this evening. The board is asked annually to approve the evaluation rubric and teacher practice instrument for teaching staff members. There are no changes to the rubric or the instrument from last year. It's just an annual approval. Under curriculum and instruction, there are several curriculum guide approval for the 1920 school year, which is inclusive of work that was done over the summer by teachers. There are 2 FCCLA trips up for consideration, professional development documentation for 2 out-of-district events. And under pupil and special services,
I'm sorry.
okay. Under pupil and special services, there are out-of-district placements, several terminated placements, change of placements, students that have returned to district, as well as new placements of students are identified on the report for the board. And for professional services, there's additional services for homebound students, as well as assistive technology and communication services for any student in need. We'd just like to add those on. And that's my report, Mr. Shi.
Thank you. Now Dan, Finance.
Okay, under finance, we have, the first resolution is regarding the funding for the turf of Edison High School baseball field. We're anticipating that, and you'll see the second resolution is for approving that contract. But the first resolution is for a transfer from our capital reserve, which if you remember from June, I put $6 million in there from our free balance. We'd like to pull $1.5 million of it out of capital reserve and appropriate it into the general account for the baseball field turf at Edison High. The second resolution is for the Company of Turf Field USA to actually do that. It's a federal cooperative through the KPN Federal Cooperative Program, which we participate in. Doesn't cost us anything to be in that program, but it does save us a lot of money by doing this. So we'd like to award it to Turf Field USA for $1,336,636, which is the bid amount from that federal cooperative. The next item is the, even though this didn't help us a lot last year, I'd like to at least put it on the table again, just in case they can. Delaware Valley Regional High School has a transportation jointure that we joined last year. Unfortunately, every time we called them last year, they weren't available to help us, but I'd like to still put it on here as an option, just in case they can help us sometime this year. Item number 4 are a couple of change orders for the modular classroom positions. We reviewed this with the Finance and Facilities Committee last week, and first one's for the FDR building in the amount of $33,956, and the second one's for Woodrow Wilson in the amount of $37,775. The FDR building is going to be a little bit delayed, which Mr. Brescher will report out with the Finance and Facilities Committee minutes. Woodrow Wilson right now is on schedule to open on September 1st. I'm happy to say that. The next item is non-public security purchases from the Ed Services Commission to us, again, from the state funds that we received. And number 6 is for the same thing, except for the technology initiative programs for non-public schools. Item number 7 is a list of obsolete items. We'd like to have declare that obsolete. Item number 8 is the bill list for the month. And item number 9 is the transportation report. As you can see, these are for some rebids for school-related services for the activities. And that concludes my report, Mr. Sheik.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So you guys received the personnel report when we were still in discussion. There are a couple items we would like to pull from the current agenda. One is on page 7. Okay. Page 7, towards the end, Robert Robinson, the transfer, we're gonna pull that from the agenda. And the other is related to that, it's page 9, all the way to the end. Jennifer Lewin, we're pulling that from the agenda. So just those two personnel items, we're pulling out from that agenda. Anything else that I missed?
So that's it.
That's it, right? Okay. So now we're open for public comments, resolutions only. Any of these things that are on the resolution? Yes.
Bill Brunner, 215 Loring Avenue. Is this thing on?
Yep.
Through the chair, Dan, would you explain that Delaware Valley Regional High School Transportation Agreement? Where's that bus depot located? Out there in Frenchtown?
Yes, it is. And that's one of the reasons why we asked them, could you handle this for us? And they said they could. But they told us they'd have a lot more available in the wintertime than this fall and the spring, except every time we called them in the winter, they weren't available either. But they did say that they could handle it for us, and they would send the buses up here.
Okay,
I know
but
it's
now,
it's a
we would
trek.
have to pay for that bus coming here to pick up our kids? I mean, that's quite a distance.
Yes, it would be a fixed fee, just like any other of our cooperative bids. It'd be a fixed fee for that route. It's up to 4 hours. It's a total amount for up to 4 hours.
At $79 per hour.
Right.
We couldn't get any other
Well, we do have one
outfit
bid.
closer to us?
Under transportation, you saw that the activities were rebid.
Yeah.
We do have contractors for that. But in the event that we have a problem, because we had a problem last year, as everyone
did
knows,
we ever.
with the athletics especially, some of the after-school activities, and if we don't have enough contractors that can handle all the different activities going on, I'd like to have them as an option to at least go to them. It'll be a last resort, and most likely they won't be able to help us anyway, but I'd like to at least have it on the table so I can call them. Because the board doesn't approve it, I don't even have that as an option.
And on the coaching, let's see, under personnel, the coaching changes, number 12, I realize that it's for boys soccer, but it doesn't say that. The 3 people listed under J.P. Stevens, it doesn't say it's boys soccer, but we all know it is. I think it should have said that. And then I noticed you dropped their salaries by $200 apiece. Any particular reason?
For a contract.
Page 15 of 15. Coaching changes. Head coach and 2 assistant coaches.
Sure, you're right. 2 correct.
Yeah.
That would be correct. I thought you had more questions. I was
No,
waiting.
that's it.
That's it. Yes, you're correct.
It is boys,
That's
and
correct.
should have said that. And I noticed you dropped all the salaries by $200. Did you make a mistake the first time around, or?
I believe that is correct, yes.
Okay, that's what I suspected. Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
Matt Revnak, ETA Vice President, 2 Ethel Road. Just one question in the actual agenda for tonight. It's listed about the evaluation system being sent down to the state for approval. And one of the things it says in there is about that it's been modified. Has there been any changes to the evaluation?
Are you looking at the resolution? Because when I made my statement, I said there are no changes. Tell me.
Well, it's on page 4, I guess, under the teacher evaluation rubric. The fourth whereas down, it says on or about May 1st, 2018. Underneath it, it mentions submitted to the commissioner a modified evaluation rubric. So were there any changes to the evaluation rubric?
Not to the evaluation rubric from last year. So on May 18th, if there were changes, that would have been in place for the 18-19 school year. So
Okay. So this was basically what was sent down the previous year to where, because when I saw the word modified, I was a little disturbed as a member of that committee. We were never made aware of any possible changes. The committee was never brought back together.
yeah, Dan, when the team met on Friday to go through the packet, neither
Oh, they didn't
Beninder
mention-
or Gail or Dr.
Mention any
Conklin said that
changes.
there were any changes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Was that the original date that this was sent down to Trenton, by the way? Because we believe, actually, speaking to Jerry, who was also Campione, that was also on the committee, the actual date of that should have been actually 2017 then, is when the new evaluation rubric came out. So I think that's what confused me as well, because it had either the wrong year or it said modified. So if it hasn't been changed at all, then it's the date that should be 2017.
Okay, let us look into that for you, Mr. Harevnik,
Sure.
okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other public comments on the resolution? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Carol Badowski, 39 Jonathan Drive. I also had a similar question to what Mr. Revnak just asked. In section 5 on the teacher evaluation rubric resolution, it does say the board received a letter on June 1st confirming that the modifications the board had made to its teacher practice. Is that just something maybe that was in the year before and got left in?
Dan, can you speak to that resolution?
You're talking about, what section are you talking about?
The fifth whereas.
One, two,
The
three,
fifth
four.
whereas.
The same one?
On
the
or
same one-
about June 1st, 2018?
This is generated by Dan's office, not me.
Yeah, we'll get back to you
I'm
on
not
that.
sure.
yeah.
Okay, it just
Yeah.
was confusing to me, and I understand 2018 would have been a year ago.
Right.
But I didn't understand, I looked at that and I was like, oh, we made changes in it.
I think if there are any changes, and they'll check. I think if there's any changes and they'll check, that they need to get together with,
The
Jeff
committee.
and Matt and the union right away. So,
Okay,
right now,
thank
we are under the impression as a board, there were no changes from last
Okay.
year.
But when I said saw modifications, that screams
Yes.
changes.
No, absolutely.
They're
Yeah,
synonyms.
When we met with the committee, the administrators at the meeting last week, they talked about, we asked, actually, I thought this was approved last month, but last month we did it for the principals.
Principals.
They said, no, this time we have to do it for the teachers, and that's what this is for.
Yes,
But
I
they didn't say-
remember that it was, I think April was the
Yeah,
teachers,
yeah.
the principals, and I looked for the teachers then, so I was
Right.
concerned.
So you-
Okay, I had one other question.
Yeah.
And again, what I said the last meeting, if the FDR additions are not ready for day one, and it doesn't look like they will be, how will the IEPs be followed? If the IEPs are not followed, that's against the law. So if those classrooms that meet the children's needs, the way their IEPs describe it, cannot be followed because they're not built,
Okay, do you have any other questions?
no, that's it.
Okay, so I'm going to have Beth respond to that, because we did get the information from Chris Conklin, and Beth is the chair of the special ed committee.
To answer your question, I spoke to Dr. Conklin at length on Friday, and he knew that whenever you build something, count that it's always going to be a month later than you expect it to be. So he's had several contingency plans in the event that they weren't able to open. So what they're going to do, right now, the FDR as it is, has enough space in it that he can comfortably house all the students in the old part of the building for the beginning of school. He assured me that every IEP has been written and will be followed. He assured me that PT and OT are ready to begin. Now, if the building doesn't open in October 1st, he has another contingency plan to carry on where we go from there. And he has a contingency plan to phase in classes as they're ready to open and so forth. So he assures me that he has it all under control, and he's thought, he and Dawn Netzel have worked on this, and they have thought, I think, of every eventuality that could
Okay, so
happen.
then there must be vacant space there.
Yeah,
that isn't
because
being
they're,
used.
right, because they start small at FDR, and of course, on the first day of school, they're going to be rolling in new kids into the admission process, but they don't really start school for a couple of weeks after that.
Okay.
Let me just want to add that if you remember going back, the original plan was to put 4 trailers in FDR, okay? So those 4 trailers has been distributed, 2 trailers each in the other 2 schools. So those classrooms are there for the kids. The modular classroom is, once we build, all these kids will move back. These kids in the 4 trailers, 8 classrooms, will be coming back to FDR to occupy those 10 classrooms. So that's what it is. So once these kids move back, the other 8 classroom will be freed up for the other 2 schools. So for the special ed kids, they have been accommodated with even with the original, but even we don't have the modular buildings, these kids would already be accommodated with the older plan. So it's just a little delay of moving them back to the FDR building. So
Okay.
please be assured that our special ed kids are well taken care of. The responsibility of this board is, the first building for this new board to come in to build is a special ed building. That's why we put our emphasis on our special education kids. We did not ignore them. We value them. They're very important to our school district. That's what I would just want to add.
thank
Thank you. Any other comments?
Jerry?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
When I first came here, I was promised that there was no more trailers. There was going to be no more trailers.
And name, address?
Cristo, 14 Fox Road. When I first came here, you promised me there was going to be no more trailers, and you called them modular classrooms. Now you're telling me there's going to be more trailers again.
They're modular classroom. Did I say trailer? Or,
I
said trailer,
heard
I'm
you
sorry.
say that there was going
Okay,
to
I'm
be
s-
more trailers at the
There are trailers. There were trailers. The original plan was to put, listen to me what I said. The original plan was to put 4 trailers right behind FDR. I'm the one who said no. Okay? So these 4 trailers have been temporarily put in the other places for the other school to use. The special ed kids, when we're building the modular classrooms, they're coming back from the trailers to the modular classrooms. That's
Okay.
what it is.
I went to Thomas Jefferson Middle School just to check to see if the trailers were still there. The trailers are gone. It's what you call a modular classroom. In the Votex, we used to call them the wing, separated from the rest of the school. So, I mean, it's basically you just put bricks. You could.
That's not true. Wait till the building finish, then you come over and talk, okay?
But it
No,
is
let me
finished.
finish. You
I'm
asked
talking
the
about
question.
Thomas Jefferson Middle School right now.
TJ is a different story, okay? We're talking about FDR and Woodrow Wilson. Okay, those are modular classrooms. The corridors have been built in to connect those two parts.
When they made the modular classrooms at TJ, why didn't they just continue building in the back where it's almost 2 acres?
All right.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah, of course I have some more. When we're talking about out of district placements, we're talking not only about the vocational kids that go to Piscataway, Votech and such. Who else are we talking about?
We have a lot of special ed kids we put out of district, that our district cannot handle. We spend about $13 to $14 million a year to put these kids out of district.
No, what I'm saying is, other than the Votex, what other schools are out of district?
What schools do they go to?
Yeah.
We have a long list of schools that we go to. They're private, they're regional. We have a long list of that. And I'm telling you, we spend about a minimum $13 million to put these kids out of district.
Well, we do have a 260, we do have a $500 million budget plus 10 million. I don't understand why it takes so long to build these facilities. In 3 years,
Okay, thank you.
you're a Board of Education member for 3 years, so that's 750, 760, $780 million. Where's this money going?
Go read the budget. You can find out 82% of the budget goes to the salary and the benefits of the staff. Okay? Out of $262 million, only about $50 million are for the other use. So that's the answer.
15 million or
About
50 million?
About 20%, 18% of 265. You do the calculation.
It's a lot more money. We have a lot more money than that, so that's just a small percentage, 50 million.
That's a fact. You
What
go
about
read
the other 200
Read the
million?
contract.
Another 200 million?
82% are the salary and benefits for the staff. It's just like any other service industry, any other school, that's somewhere around 80%. If you go look at the township, they're even higher.
And how much do we pay for all the schools put together, the salary?
82%,
Total budget.
No, I mean, what's the budget?
265.
No, I mean, how much are you paying the teachers, the
265
janitor staff?
million, 82% of that is teachers and benefits.
Rich,
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody else? Other resolutions? Okay.
All right, Dan.
See none, we're gonna go on to the voting. So remember, on the personnel report, the 2 people were taken out, okay? So can I have a motion just for the personnel? Okay, Mrs. Penn, Mrs. Maroney.
Dr. Chen?
Yes.
Mrs. Conaway?
Yes.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes on everything except item 8. Unfortunately, I cannot vote for Danielle Erica.
Abstain.
Abstaining from that one.
All right. Mr. Shi?
Yes.
So carried.
All right, so next we have all the remaining items, administration, including A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. In the curriculum, we have A, B, C, 3 items. For pupil services, we have A and B. And for the finance, we have the finance resolution that Dan just went through. So can I have a motion for the remaining items? All the items, okay, Dr. Chen, Mrs. Patel.
Dr. Chen?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
All right, now we open for public comments. I'm sorry, a board member comment. Oh, no, sorry.
Committee.
Wait.
Finance and
Full votes on
Facilities Committee.
Committee report.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now we have a committee reports, finance facility, which is Mr. Brescher.
We had a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting on 8/20/19 at 4 PM at the Education Center. In attendance were Richard Brescher, Jerry Shi, Ralph Errico, Mark Cataldi, Dan Michaud, Rich Pepe, and Ken Taylor. Pete Capasana and Tara Donnie from USA Architects provided a status report of the FDR Modular Addition. Due to several delays, including the issuance of the permits and remediation of unsuitable soil, the estimated completion date has changed to October 2019. Mr. Conklin has a contingency plan in place to service these students until the completion of the 10 classrooms. USA Architects presented a change order for $33,956, which included charges and credits for changes to the original specifications. Alicia Peluso from 3 Summers Creative provided the committee with ideas for information sharing services to help inform the public of the details about the December 10th referendum. Number 3, Marcus Rosenthal and Jack Wenner Grenick from SSP Architects gave the committee a status report for the Woodrow Wilson Middle School Modular Classroom Project. The project is progressing well and is anticipated to be ready by 9/1/2019. They presented change orders for $37,775, representing several changes that were necessary due to unforeseen field conditions. Perry DePizzi from Field Turf USA presented a revised proposal for the design and installation of a turf baseball field at Edison High School. The revised proposal reduced the engineering fee by $12,000. After reviewing the sketches and proposal, the committee is recommending that the board approve the project. The district will transfer funding from the capital reserve account to cover the cost of the project. Number 5, the committee reviewed the status report that was provided by the district's roofing architect, Tom Renenzi, for the roofing projects at 4 schools. Edison High School roof is completed, and the other 3 will be completed prior to the start of the school year. 6, Ken Taylor provided a status report of the projects that are being completed during the summer of 2019. Most of the summer projects have been completed, and the balance of the projects will either be completed before school begins or will be completed shortly afterwards. 7, the committee reviewed construction manager job description. After a few minor modifications, it is being recommended for approval at the next board meeting. 8, the committee reviewed 3 proposed sidebar agreement with the ETA contract, 1 for salary guide credit for hard-to-fill certified position, 1 for armed security guards, and 1 for the wingman program club stipend. The meeting was adjourned at 7:37 p.m.
Okay, thank you. So, upcoming meetings. We're going to September, so we're going to our normal 2-meeting schedule. The caucus meeting will be on Wednesday, September 18th, here, 7 o'clock. And the public meeting will be at 7 o'clock at JP Stevens on September 23rd. All right, now let's open for board member comments. Board members, yes.
You know, I mean, I guess I was just made aware that we don't have a Thanksgiving Day football game. It seems like some people in the public have known about it. It was in the paper, I guess, back in April, I found out. And it's nothing that we could really do about it because it was a state change. And I do understand that. But I did notice that our schedule was typically 10 games for the last few years, and now it's only 9 games. I was wondering if we could have a makeup game or something to kind of get us back to the 10-game, platform that we were at.
Well, we can look into it, but I think the Edison and JP are
There was a
playing.
10th game?
Can you go there? Yeah, no,
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
thank you, Mr. Ross. You're wearing a baseball T-shirt.
I want to make sure we got a shovel out for that field. In regards to the football was always, the Thanksgiving was always the 10th game. We have 9 games that are scheduled depending on the play and the seedings of both of the teams in Edison. They'll either have a playoff game the 10th week, or they'll have a crossover consolation type game.
Can I ask you a question then? When I looked at the other schools, like when I looked at, I don't know, some of the other schools in our county, they showed 10 games. Do they have the same consolation game afterwards, so they're playing 11 games, or are they only playing 10 games? And are we playing 10, but we only show 9?
My thought is that we all play the same, to be honest. I would have to check. I mean, if there's something to catch an extra game, I could be wrong. I don't know about Edison and JP, and I know the people we're playing. September 6th at JP Stevens will be the first game. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So,
All right, so, yeah, Matt? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I'm it. Now, I just want to mention, because I did some research upon your questioning and speaking to Mr. Bowden about this. It's actually a GMC thing. Most of the state got rid of the Thanksgiving game, and what I was told for two reasons. Number one is the adherence now to concussion protocols and number of students and young people that are being affected. And also, there was the outward sort of complaint. We even had a person here a few years ago based off of the fact they're playing on Thanksgiving and it takes away from the holiday for people. If you look on it, and I actually checked into this, there's an 8-game schedule. They actually call it week 0 to week 8. JP Stevens and Edison is playing week 0, and pretty much every rivalry in the county is doing the same. They actually had the option of playing either week 0 or week 8, which would be the last week of the season prior to the state playoff game. So everybody's playing the rivalries. Perth Amboy, Carteret, Old Bridge, and East Brunswick, Edison and JP are all being played on week 0. So basically, that's being moved as one of the regularly scheduled games. And yes, there is a consolation game, which would bring you to the 9th game if you don't make the state playoffs. And one of the things with that is the state playoffs, the way it's set up, is starting earlier now. And literally speaking, you would play Friday night or Saturday, Thanksgiving Thursday, and then most likely the next day. That's 3 games in a 7-day period. The NFL doesn't play that. So that's one of the reasons for, doing that. I also talked to the athletic directors about it, or I should say the JP Stevens athletic director, and she gave me some information as well on it. One of the things that's very difficult, you don't have games to play now, especially if you don't make the state playoffs, and having kids hang around for 3 weeks that don't want to be at practice anymore, because realistically their season is over, also comes into play. So we did a lot of research about, into it, and that's what we came up with.
No, the only reason why I asked was, I guess after watching football and, playing football and seeing football and always knowing what Thanksgiving had to be with football, and you watch this for 60, 70 years, and then you hear just recently that some new people came out with a better way to make a cake. I guess you question, well, what do we do in the past for the last 60, 70 years? So that was really my question. And I never got to the bottom of that one yet.
I understand. I'm from Perth. I was born and raised in Perth Amboy. Perth Amboy Carteret's one of the oldest rivalries in the state. That's like something like 90 years they've been playing on Thanksgiving, but that's over with. They're going to be playing week 0 now. So anyway, that's the information that we found out.
That's where I'm going.
Okay. Other board members? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. For some time now, I have remained silent on a number of pressing issues that the Edison Board of Education has been facing. As many members of the community have approached me regarding issues that I also have concerns about, I would like to give my response to the public as to our shared worries. But please be advised that the comments I am making tonight represent my opinions only and not those of the Board of Education. First, it is incomprehensible that the Edison Board of Education made no effort in the 2018-19 school year to begin a serious search for a superintendent of schools. That lack of movement has left Edison Public Schools exactly where we are today, floundering in an ocean of problems such as overcrowding, trying to pass a large bond referendum, and transportation. Other neighboring districts, such as Piscataway, managed to replace their superintendent within months of the resignation of their previous one. So why hasn't Edison? Shortly after the resignation of Dr. O'Malley, Mr. Brescher said to the board, "Why do we have to hire a firm to do a superintendent search? Put ads in the local newspaper, get some applicants, and choose the best one." Mr. Brescher, you were right. When we finally did get around to soliciting search firms, Mr. Shee advised us to hire the most expensive firm because they would be the best. Never mind that the firm is from out of state, and we had 2 local search firms eager to do the job, which would have cost us less than half the money HYA is charging. Never mind that the local firms would most likely have found us a competent, experienced, and exciting chief school administrator. Never mind that in all our searches, such as vendors, insurance brokers, and attorneys, Mr. Shi has promoted to pick the least expensive. But here we are, facing the new school year without a permanent superintendent. Right now, HYA is promising the board that we will have candidates to interview by the end of September, more than a month away. And what is even more disturbing is that our staff will have to learn the style of a new superintendent mid-year, which will be their 3rd chief administrator in 1 year's time. Frankly, this is very, very poor planning. The second issue on my list is the bond referendum, which was supposed to be put before the public on September 24th, but was delayed because we did not have sufficient time to promote it, largely due to Mr. Saxton's unfortunate illness. Last February, my daughter and son-in-law moved to Bridgewater. They bought a house and property comparable to ours in Edison, yet their taxes are less than half of what my husband and I are paying currently. How can that possibly be? And by the way, the Bridgewater Raritan school system, which is comparable in size to Edison, has been ranked currently in state standings as higher than Edison. Although I want to see a reduction in the overcrowding of the Edison schools as much as any member of the board, I lay awake at night and worry about the added tax burden that this will put on senior citizens, parents who are paying exorbitant tuitions for their children's college educations, and those who are scraping by, having to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. While we project that the tax increase will only be $223 a year for the average home assessed at $178,000, most homes in Edison are assessed for at least twice that, and some at least 4 or 5 times that amount of money. Therefore, although we say the referendum will have little impact on the taxpayers, that's not the truth. I agree with many of the residents, such as the indomitable Mr. Bruner, who have come to the podium and asked for more information on what the expansion plan is going to look like. I don't think the public has been given an adequate opportunity to question and understand what $189.5 million is going to get them. No matter how much we need a solution to the problem of overcrowding, I know in my heart that this referendum is doomed to fail. We have not done our due diligence informing our constituents that there even is a bond referendum in the works. Members of the public have come to the podium and offered fiscal plans that should have been considered. We even formed a task force to propose solutions to the overcrowding problem. And while a list of proposals was created, none of them were seriously considered, and the task force fell apart. Ultimately, we ended up with a bond referendum created by an architectural firm. The suggestions from the task force were ignored. Members of the community need to be aware that if the referendum fails 3 times, it can be submitted to the state for approval. The state may make cuts or they may agree to the plan as is. This means that even if the people of Edison vote no on spending $189.5 million, if no alternative is proposed, we may end up doing just that. Though some believe Dr. O'Malley had no plan to deal with overcrowding, he was using the lease purchase method to build responsibly and cost-effectively. During his tenure in Edison, several additions were built, not to mention we reconstructed an entire school building after the fire at James Monroe. The total cost to the district for the addition of upstairs classrooms and air conditioning at the new Monroe building was handled through our capital reserve and insurance, with no extra burden added to the taxpayers. By being fiscally responsible and how the money was used, people in Edison were pleased with that beautiful new building. Although continuing the lease purchase plan would take more time in providing overcrowding relief, it should be considered as a realistic option. In the time that we have been working on creating a plan for a bond referendum, Dr. O'Malley would have had 4 additions onto the overcrowded buildings at no cost to the public. 4 brick additions could have been constructed in the 2 years that we have not brick buildings, but the prefabs. The next matter about which I want to speak is the resolution that the Board of Education passed in May regarding New Jersey School Boards Association. Although it is a New Jersey statute that all boards of education in the state shall be members of the New Jersey School Boards, Mrs. Ward has been arguing for years that Edison is paying more than its fair share in dues to belong. She has argued that we don't get anything for the dues that we pay. However, there are many accusations in Mrs. Ward's resolution that have been refuted by Larry Feinsod, the executive director of the New Jersey School Boards Association. In a letter that Dan Michaud forwarded to each board member from the executive director of the NJBSA, Mr. Feinsod refutes 8 issues that are inaccurate in the information furnished by Mrs. Ward to the board. I will cite one example. Regarding the fee for the annual conference in Atlantic City, our resolution stated that the cost to the Board of Education for its members to attend the annual conference has increased 77.7% in the last 3 years. Mr. Feinsod responded to that by informing us that percentage is incorrect. In fact, for districts like Edison, which have used the group registration rate, the cost per person has decreased. He goes on to give the figures from 2016 to 2018 and concludes, for a district that registered the maximum number of attendees under the regular group rates, the fee dropped by 20% during the 3-year period between 2016 and 2018. To say that New Jersey School Boards doesn't give us anything for our money is wrong. Board members receive weekly updates on clinics and conferences being offered to enhance our knowledge on a plethora of matters, including changes in the law, how to deal with challenges facing our children, and how to conduct superintendent searches. Every month, meetings are held in each county where the attendees have an opportunity to speak directly to our field representatives. Ironically, it is Mrs. Ward who has been our district representative to New Jersey School Boards Association, and she has been faithfully attending those meetings. I have always wondered why, if Mrs. Ward despises the NJSBA as she claims, does she continue to be the board representative to their meetings? I do not think, when the board passed this resolution, that we were given accurate information on which to base the complaint, which seriously tarnishes the reputation of the one organization that represents our constituents. Since this resolution was prepared for the board by the board attorney with input from Mrs. Ward, I am particularly disappointed that our attorneys did not check the validity of the accusations made in the resolution before bringing it to a vote. The full board should have been made aware of the inaccuracies that were included. Instead, we look foolish as to the many errors that were made in that resolution. Therefore, I would like to propose that we discuss the resolution against NJSBA in closed session, consider the information that we have received from Mr. Feinsod, and ultimately withdraw the resolution. We have bashed the organization that works diligently to educate, lead, and inform school board members on all relevant contemporary matters based on unsubstantiated information and Mrs. Ward's personal campaign. Now let us talk about the resolution that we proposed against the Edison Township Zoning Board, a resolution that was thrown out by the judge who heard the case. Since our attorney, Mr. Rivera, did not agree with the judge on the matter of the case, he has suggested that we appeal it. In April, Scarinci Hollenbeck charged the Board of Education $4,942 in the zoning suit. In May, we were charged $9,236.22, and in June, we were charged $2,563.20 for a total of $16,741.42. Sure, it would be lucrative for the law firm to continue pursuing the zoning board lawsuit. However, is it prudent to continue paying taxpayer dollars to pursue this? Speaking of legal costs, when the Board of Education hired Scarinci Hollenbeck, we signed a contract where that firm would be paid $5 less an hour than our previous firm. In comparing the board's legal bills since Scarinci Hollenbeck became our legal firm, in 2018-19, the charge to the district for the entire year was $424,844.51. The largest bill that we ever received from our previous law firm was $371,384.07, which is a difference of $53,460.44. However, the costs for previous years with our former firm were significantly lower than what we are getting from Scarinci Hollenbeck. And let's remember that Scarinci Hollenbeck charges us $5 less than the previous firm. And for the first half of 2019, the board has been charged $230,849.62, which is only $60,000 less than our former firm charged us in 2017 and 2018. If we continue to receive the legal bills that we have received for this year so far, we could very well hit the $500,000 mark for legal fees this year. Students must come first, period. Staff and parents follow closely behind. Please study the issues and be informed. Right now, we stand on the cusp of a school board election in November. 10 citizens have submitted applications to run. I sincerely hope that in the next few months, the public gets to know each one of these candidates so they can elect the ones who most closely align with their views as the residents of Edison on critical issues. I realize that I have taken quite a bit of time in making these statements tonight. However, these issues have been boiling inside me for nearly 2 years. The mark of a wise and efficient leader is to unify the group with whom he or she is working, spur them into action, and inspire members to want to do more. This board has fractured dismally under Mr. Xi's presidency, and as a result, not much has gotten done.
Okay. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. I would like to thank the Finance Facilities Committee for getting the turf field bid out. Again, you knew this was one of my pet projects. I know the Edison High School field is in dire need of a lot of work, drainage, so forth and so on. Hopefully next year we're doing the same thing at J.P. Stevens, which I believe we will. But I want to thank Rich for putting in the time to make sure we got the right engineer, the right company, and Mr. Shi and the Facilities Committee. Thank you very much for doing that. I will be working with not only the vendor, but with Mr. Ross and the head baseball coach there to make sure it's done correctly and we get what we want, be it my name in the center field bleachers or whatever.
How much money you
Just
put
joking,
in?
though. But yeah, thank you very much, and I'm so happy for the Edison High School baseball program, and hopefully I'll be saying the same thing about the J.P. Stevens High School baseball program next year. Also, would like to thank Mrs. Ward for putting in all that time and effort into the contract. That we have a sidebar agreement now, and hopefully we'll get that up and running very shortly. But Mrs. Ward, and I know Mrs. Conway, if she's still with us, and Beth, put a lot of time into working this out to make sure our children are protected in the school. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members? Yes, Mrs. Ward.
The Lindenau PTO, is this right? The Lindenau PTO will be having a popsicles in the playground on Thursday of this week, Thursday, August 29th at 6:30. So children, please bring your mommies and daddies over to Lindenau and have some popsicles and meet the new PTO mothers. And if it's raining on Thursday, it will be Friday, August 30th at 6:30. And Beth, we have to talk about their response. You should have checked with me first before you went public with their response. It was very self-serving and inaccurate.
Thank you. Any other board members? See, none, I just wanted, since Beth started this thing, I was caught by surprise, and I just want to respond. Okay, so maybe we should hire Dr. O'Malley back. We should have four buildings by now.
Okay, sounds good.
But let's no. Okay, so let's put the respect, put it into respect. Okay, we built two wings, Woodbrook and Menlo Park. Okay, we didn't go out and do the bond referendum. It's $20 million. So I always use Dr. O'Malley has this zero debt philosophy. So, which Frank is here, I hope he can testify that. Zero debt is we don't borrow money. Okay, so think about when you go out and get a car. Do you want to buy a car? You want to lease a car? We all know when you lease a car, you only pay $300. Maybe $600 a month or something. But when you buy a car, you pay it right there. We bought those two buildings for $20 million. Imagine that, okay? If we spread that out, how much money we can get. As far as the decisions that's made as a board, although I'm the board president, I only have one vote. All the decisions moving forward needs to be agreed by 4 other board members, okay? When it comes to the hiring, the superintendent, everything. I'm just one vote. I mean, I'm a board member, I carry more weight now. So a lot of the things that Mrs. Maroney stated, she voted yes for it, okay? As far as the superintendent search, when we spoke, we said that the first priority is the crisis is the overcrowding. Right now, if we don't have these 10 modular buildings in Woodrow Wilson School, there were one period, there were about 140 kids. We have no place to put them. Okay? So the priority is to solve the overcrowding. And Mr. Saxton has the expertise to do that. That's why he was hired as a superintendent, interim superintendent, to pass the referendum. When you hire a new superintendent, you want to make sure things are settled, the foundation set up, so the new superintendent can move forward, instead of throwing the new superintendent into all these things, crazy things that he or she needs to deal with. And that's what the time has been spent. Talking about the superintendent search, we have 2 people sitting right outside. They're coming in, present the superintendent profile to the board tonight. Okay, that's a second closed session item. And you mentioned that we picked the most expensive firms. There are only 2 firms who actually put in the bid. One is the other one is Middlesex Commissioner. Okay, Educational Services. Okay, it's a board's decision. At least 5 members agreed to bring the other HYA comment. Okay, it's not mine. Don't put it on me. It's the entire board's decision. Okay, and as far as why we're not having our internal people do the search is because as I mentioned last time and before, confidentiality is very, very important to some of the superintendents who are sitting there, okay? We have been asking the people that to go out and to recruit those people in a high-performing school that should come over here. They don't want their name to be revealed, okay? Plus, we also might have internal candidates who is applying. That's why we have a third party to handle this. The choice of HYA with Middlesex, that's a board decision. You are part of it. I think you voted yes for it.
I did not.
You did not vote? Okay, okay. So other several members, at least 5 members voted for it. So it's not my decision. And they have, the company is based in Illinois or something, the headquarters, but they have done services in a lot of states and in New Jersey. They have done a lot of searches in New Jersey, and I think even now they're doing some searching in one of the district, Bayonne, is that Bayonne or something else? So they have done a lot of searches in New Jersey, and that's why the board members have their different opinions why they agree to go this way, and maybe that's why they look at their performance in the record as a part of the reference, and you look at the Middlesex what they did. Not much. We want to go out and find the best superintendent for the town. All right. So I think that sometimes you want to spend some money. It's what you get paid for. And let's see what they come back. And tonight they're going to give us a profile for the superintendent. As far as the referendum, all right. You were part of the Community Relations Committee. The Community Relations Committee was set up to help the, one of the tasks is to help the referendum. The other is to help out, to reach out to the parents for any issues they have, okay? I don't know how many meetings that you have had so far. Talking about getting the information out, and tomorrow, actually, over here, we're going to have a meeting to discuss what's the next step. And Mr. Brescher just provided an update. We is talking with this firm, try to help, give us some help as to the strategies, how to move out with the publicize this referendum. And this is in December. And normally, you do a heavy punching about a couple months before the election date. So although it's in December, we need to work hard, and this is what we're going to do. Is tomorrow we're going to have a discussion on that. So all these things we've been addressing. Okay. As far as the legal fees, we all know in 2017, in the whole calendar year, we have attorney who spent $500,000. Okay, that's what the money I got from Dan. That's I don't know where you get the $300,000 figure. And just let's face it, in 2017 we lost one case. Let's all know that. Okay, this is a fact. You can operate. We lost one case. We paid $140,000 for legal fee for that just one case. Think about it. It's not in the $500,000 he charged, but it's an additional $140,000. Let's not forget that. Okay? I know there are some personal relationships with the previous attorney, whatever, but it's a taxpayer's money. You have mentioned that we have done nothing in the past couple of years. Let me just share something with you. Last year, we changed the insurance company. We saved $3.6 million on premium. $3.6 million. And the insurance company pays another $600,000 on top of the 306. So that's $4.2 million. This year, we switched the insurance again, came down $1.6 million less than what Dan budgeted for. And plus another $600,000 A4 surcharge. So that's another $2.2 million. You can add it up. That's close to $7 million in 2 years. Last year, at 1 o'clock in J.P. Stevens, we had our special ed vendor in the room. Okay, everyone's tired. They want our business. Who was the one who asked them, you want out of our business, you gotta give us a discount? Who did that? It was me. We got an average $10 per hour discount on the services. We have 1,000 to 1,200 hours a week, 180 days. It's 36 weeks. We are saving at least $400,000 on top of that. That's last year, and this year the rate is the same. So it's another $400,000. That's $800,000 in 2 years. We did another example. Mr. Brescher brought up the roofing. The original plan was to do 4 roofings in the traditional way. We went into this new technology. The 2 roofs that we did, it saved about half the money. It's about $200,000 in each building, right? The school board also, we implement the online registration. You saw the number. 407 parents registered online. Those are 407 parents. They don't have to wait here to register. And we implemented the annual verification. That's part of the online registration system. It's going to come into effect next year when we start to weed kids out when they're not part of this school district. And the other thing that we have done is you have seen how hard the curriculum committee has worked. They have worked countless hours under the leadership of Mrs. Pan to revise the grouping policy to make it more reasonable and more not that subjective. Okay. We have worked with the administration to reduce the technology use for the lower grade. We're going back to more in a traditional teaching of blackboard and chalk, okay? So that's, you know, I can add a lot of other things. I just don't have it in my head right now. I can continue on this. But please, and also just even now in the past couple of weeks, right? This online registration system, a week before school starts, you'll see lots of complaints as to, you know, they cannot log into the system, right? This year we still have some, but it's much less than what had before. These are all the improvements we have done. How can you blindly say nothing has been achieved? I don't know where you have been. You know, maybe you have not been working as hard as some of the other board members, but
That's a
you know,
low
that's
blow, Jerry.
that's what you know, that's what you know, you mentioned that about, you know, this board. I can't let you do that because this board, a lot of people has been working very hard on this. But for the food committee, just another example, the food committee, okay? There was only one meeting in 1 year in the past, one meeting. And this year we had multiple we solved multiple issues with the food, and we got another $150,000 additional on top of the $350 we get from Chartwell. All of this are the achievement has been achieved by the school board, this board. So that's all I'm going to say. You know, I can write you a long list of the things that we accomplished if you want, but please just don't say we've done nothing.
Can I,
Yes, please.
I just, I'm not going into the past on anything. I'm looking for the future here. And I guess what I'm looking to do is put Margaret on a little bit of a hot seat here. And I know you just sat in that seat, but, and I know that you're meeting tomorrow or so. Can you get us a timeline, let's say, for, I don't know, you pick a date, you know, September 2nd or something, to get us to like a bond referendum on how we're gonna, like a timeline type of thing?
I believe that's one of the things that we're going to do with the PR rep that we have been speaking with.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that we have outlined.
Just so that we see how we're going to get there and achieve that goal.
That would be one of the first things I do. As I promised
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Shi
you.
when he asked me to do this, my priority was to make sure the schools were ready to open.
I know.
You've heard me
you-
say that before.
Right.
That we're in good stead there, so now my next priority would be where are we with the referendum?
Right, I know you just kind of got into it, and I know the other is a big priority for us, but I just want, very good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll be sharing that with the board.
Okay, any other board members? Okay, see none, public comments? Yes. Go ahead, yes.
Jim Kelly, Route 27, Edison. I've spent almost 26 years as a dayman in TJ. I want to compliment, I don't know who, if it was the custodians' work or besides the material they used, but I have never seen the floors in TJ looking so good as they did the other day.
You got to thank Dr. O'Malley for that.
Couple of other things. It was brought to my attention last spring about the fact that by the American Legion and the VFW that the schools no longer are having programs for Veterans Day like they used to. I don't expect them to have ones like Mr. C had in TJ, but it would be nice to have an assembly just before or right after Veterans Day in all the schools.
Mr. Shi?
Yeah, there are several schools who has that assembly, and I've been to some of them. The one that I've been going to is MLK. They do a lot, very good assembly for Veterans Day, and I'm related to, I have relation in the military, so you bet that that's just something that's.
If you get a chance, ask Mr. Machado about TJ's program.
Okay.
The other thing is I found out, and I don't know, or I was told, I don't know if it's true. I was talking to somebody the other day and told him about Rick Atkinson's book on the American Revolution, and told him that it would have been be very good book for the kids to use for a book report. The guy that wrote it, it was very good for 8th grade all the way up, and I was told that they no longer is part of the curriculum. I don't know, and that I don't understand. There's no longer reading outside books or doing book reports, or the Revolution isn't part of the curriculum. I don't know what they meant, but I know the Revolution got to be part of their curriculum.
Okay.
So, and there's no book reports anymore.
It's all done online now.
We'll look into that. And
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, thanks. We do look through it, yeah. Anthony.
Anthony Diamond, 15 Rodak Circle. Beth, first of all, thank you. I know it's tough sometimes when you're outspoken and you want to bring light to certain things. It can be lonely. After you speak, you hear crickets. I'm going to digest everything you said today, but this is 2 meetings in a row, Mr. Shi, that you had 2 of your board members that disagreed with the process, I guess, of where we are with the superintendent. I know I've been somebody that's been hammering at this for a while, but I think we could all use our 2 eyes and 2 ears and think for ourselves. So there has been some accomplishments, but to also disrespect, in a sense, to talk down to your fellow board member just because she disagrees with where this board is going is quite remarkable. It shows it doesn't look good on your character, sir. And I believe you owe her an apology.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Frank Heelan.
Gotcha.
Frank Keelan at 55 Harmon Road, Edison, and been in education for a long time. Superintendent for 25 years, and was on the board for 7 years, and president for 2, and vice president for 2 years too, and a doctorate from Columbia. So I just have a few thoughts that I have to give on my recommendations for a referendum. I don't know if I can get 5 votes, but I think I'll give it a try. $190 million for the bond referendum. Sounds like Alice in Wonderland to me, that much. State aid would be 34% or $65 million, so it'd be $125 million. That would be the hard costs, as they say, and there might be another 15 million besides that in soft costs. Tax input, as had been pointed out, $223 a year, so that's like $2,300 every 10 years. And multiply that by that you'd be paying every year. And if it's $223, then particularly in that first year, if it's about $100, generally tax increase, it might be $323. So I think people pay a lot of money here in Edison. And of course, as has been pointed out, if it's double that, if you have one of those very expensive houses in certain areas, then it might be $500, $600 or better. So now Janet Perrintoni, also from SSP Architects, your architectural firm, spoke about you might take the whole kit and caboodle, or you might just go with high priority schools, break it down to high priority schools. I have my priorities, and I'm sure you're anxious to hear my priorities. It would be number 1, Lincoln School. Number 2, J.P. Stevens. Number 3, Edison. And 4 would be the elementary schools, John Adams, James Madison Intermediate, and John Marshall. And of course, we'd love to wave a magic wand and have all this money and be able to do what we have to do for the overcrowded situation for the students. I mean, there's not a question, it's how to get through it, and whether I just disagree on how it's being done by packaging everything together. We did have past referendums. In 2008, there was $162 million that failed miserably. They put it up again for whatever it was, $99 million. That failed even worse. They brought it down to $29-30 million. And that was even less than the $162 million. So, I mean, it was, if you're going to just bring it down each time, I don't think it's going to work. Then there was one about 2000, I guess it was 15, $18 million that did pass. It was approved for James Monroe, and that did help us to get the money. Nothing of that was spent, but we got the money from the insurance company to pay for James Monroe. Now, if we look at using the 5-year lease purchase, which I think is a great way that Dan Michaud had worked with us over the years, we've spent 60, well, including the funds from the insurance company, $23 million for the James Monroe School. We also had, through the 5-year lease purchases, we had 10 science labs in JP and 10 science labs in Edison High School for $18 million. James Monroe, $23 million. Menlo Park, it was $8 million. Woodbrook Elementary was about $11 million. And I know we had it on the books for the middle school at Woodrow Wilson, and I know you have another plan for that. So, so what are my recommendations? My recommendations would be do Lincoln School now. Lincoln School has classes in the closet, from what I understand. Now, I've seen the kitchen in the closet, and I hope that's not the same ones they're using for the classes. But that was built in 1953, and it's the oldest school in the school district, and I think that it's about time something was done for Lincoln School, and that we have the $10 million that we received in state aid. We have $3.5 million from a year ago. Then we have another, that 3.5 is pumped in. Then on top of that, there's another $3.2 million. So it's over $10 million that we received, some of which I guess will be going towards a turf field capital reserve or whatever. But you could use that money to apply to the Lincoln School. That's my number one priority. And also, Janet Perrintoni, your architect, picked it out. In quotation, she said it's the supremely over capacity. So I hope that's done. As far as the bond referendum, since she had even suggested it as a possibility, I would suggest just doing a more modest, humbling yourself, doing a more modest bond referendum, maybe for 49 million. You don't want to make it 50, it sounds bad. 49 million for JP and Edison, and then as a temporary thing, or for as long until we could afford more, modular classrooms for John Adams and James Madison Intermediate, John Marshall, for about $5 million, such as we're doing over at some of the other schools.
Time's up.
Oh, gee, I have my recapitulation here. Can I get another minute?
You could come back later.
Come back later. This is the most important part.
Well, you are the board
Save it.
chair. You can say
Okay.
that. You were the board chair. You were timing everybody, right?
Should've let me.
Yeah. Okay, yes. But before you come over there, Frank, you were the board chair for a couple of years. You've been on the school board for 7 years. You know that we have overcrowding problem for a long time. And I would love to do it, this whole board love to do it in piecemeals. But, in the current environment, we have only one shot. And we have stated multiple times, we're not gonna go out and get $189 million in one shot. We're gonna go based on the design of the schools, then we can go get the money, because you don't pay the interest if we don't use the money. Why we get all the money for that? So, that's, I don't know if that helps you with your calculation. But, you mentioned that we did get a couple additional state aid. It's 3.2 and 3.6. And based on your calculation, add up $10 million. And I don't add that to $10 million, it's probably $7 million. And that's the money we are using to build these two modular schools and the turf field. So, that's where the money goes. As far as, lease purchase versus this a 30-year debt, again, it's 5-year versus 30 years. So you're the superintendent, you know how to do the calculation, what's the impact to the taxpayers? 5 years more or 30 years more? The Lincoln School right now has two trailers. And once we move these kids, the special ed kids, out of that trailer, those trailers can be temporarily used to alleviate some of the problem there. There are 4 classrooms in that school right now. So I hope, I think, you were on a board when the decision was made. And so I hope you still remember that. There are 4 classrooms out there once the modular in FDR is built. Okay? Yes.
I agree with everything, Miss 14 Fox Road, Crystal Macropolis. I'm going to be on the ballot for Board of Education. I agree with everything Miss Maroney said before, and my father, he told me to treat every woman the way you want to treat a man, your mother, if I had a daughter, or my sister. And she does deserve an apology. This is America. She has the right to speak her mind, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
You can't do this. You cannot do it on here. Okay, you cannot do that.
I cannot?
You cannot do.
All right, I won't say I was going to fire you.
You can't.
I understand.
Hold on a second, let's pause your statement so we can be clear. You can't make statements from the microphone to advance any political candidate, particularly yourself or anyone else that's running for the Board of Ed.
No problem.
No, let me finish. If you do that, the board does have the right to edit that video and redact it so that it's not put out there. Can't stop the live streaming, but please follow the rules. It's not fair to other candidates.
Okay, please add more extra time to me because Thank you. All right. Now, about the armed security guards, I was gonna bring this issue up. I see it's on paper now. Was this voted on yet?
Yes.
And yes or no? Because I was actually gonna bring this up. Other people wanted to bring this up. I don't have to bring this up. What's your answer?
It's a unanimous yes.
Unanimous yes, we're gonna have armed security guards.
Yes.
And that man there is gonna get to be armed too? He
We don't
was
know.
a security guard.
We don't know if
He
he
didn't apply.
qualifies or not.
I love that guy. He was at Edison High when I was security guard. He deserves a raise over there. He's a good man. Since I'm not allowed to mention certain people, one of those certain people had told me that they wanted that guy over there. What's that guy over there's name? Yeah, Mr. Ross, Principal Ross of Edison High School. So I started talking to the students, and I asked around about Principal Ross because I had no idea who he was. So I asked a lot of the students, "You like Principal Ross?" They all loved him, and you know what they said? They said they wanted him to be superintendent.
He could apply.
And how many years it took us to? How many years we've been missing a superintendent?
Year and a half.
Well, that's despicable. He already knows the school system. And let me continue. Edison has no vocational school. We actually have to send our kids out of district. So what happens is our taxpayer money goes to pay Piscataway, East Brunswick, Woodbridge, instead of all those other counties paying us to bring their kids over here, and we could also profit from that. That new building you're making, what kind of building is it? Elementary school, middle school, high school, vocational school?
I don't want to take your time. Go
We'll
continue.
respond at the end, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but I'm asking a question. What kind of school is
We'll
it?
respond at the end.
Respond at the end.
Okay.
So not to take your time.
Do you have a name for that school yet?
We're not taking your time.
Because I can say, oh, all right. Well, I suggest the name, James F. Lynch. And since we're not allowed to have religion in school, I want no politics, no social justice warriors, or racism to be allowed. Keep schools as the education centers of higher learning they were meant to be. If you go on YouTube and you check out the White Privilege Conference 2014, which is paid by federal taxpayer money, I'm not going to read part 1 through 4, but just part 2, rape is not intrinsically evil. This is what our taxpayer money is going for. And college students even get credits for this, and we send our teachers to these events. I don't appreciate that. Right here. I'm not going to speak too much about this because you're probably going to make a big deal out of it. So I went, spent my own money, and you can talk about it in the back room. Here. We need to fix these problems. You can pass it around.
It goes to the board
Give it
president.
to-
Oh, well, I can't, I'm not walking all the way there. It's going to waste my time. This needs to stop.
Just
Right
leave it
there.
at the end.
Leave it there.
Leave it.
Leave it at the
New Brunswick teacher's aide pleads guilty to sexual assault charge. That's the first one I added. Here's a copy of that one. This one's for me. City elementary school teacher charged with having sexual contact with student 15. We need to change this. You can talk about that in the back. One of those people who I'm not allowed to speak about told me not to bring up certain issues like this. They said it never occurred in this school. But what they don't understand is when I graduated in 2018, and they were still 10 years old, actually, we did have an incident that happened in Edison High, and it just didn't happen on school grounds. So you need to fix this. And that's pretty much it. I like, who's the person on the phone, Miss Conway?
Yeah.
Miss Conway, I like Miss Conway. I love her. You pumped me up today. I love you. I love this woman. She's a great woman. Mr. Erico, you seem all right? Everyone else, I'm still, it's still on the fence. I like that dude. And don't forget to answer my questions. All right. So, are you going to answer my questions that you told me from before? I'm done. So,
Okay.
Now you can answer my
I
questions.
don't know which school you're talking about, the new school, we're not building any new schools. If you look at our plan, we're expanding, we're adding additions. So I don't know which school you're talking about, okay?
Okay, because
And
I
so
did hear
that-
one.
I don't know what name we're gonna make. I can name the win, you know, if I have enough people who, if we have someone who's gonna donate to our school, I'll name that win after this person.
Well, you can name Lindenau School after him.
Yeah, so, that's it. But if you're talking about some issues with East Brunswick, it's not in Edison, I can't comment on it. And if that happens in Edison, we'll follow whatever is the legal route we need to do to take care of it.
It already happened in Edison.
I have a name.
Your time is done.
All right, but I had a second question that Mr. Errico said that he was going to answer.
Which one was that? I'm sorry.
I can't remember now. I mean, he should
There was so
have
many.
answered my question when.
First question was, were any schools going to be vocational schools, any new schools? Mr. Shi answered that question. The second question were, are any of those schools going to be named after anyone? And there's not going
Yeah.
to be any new schools, so I don't know if there's.
There's no new schools, and to answer the question, to change
Yeah.
any school name
All right, both
would
of
have to
those
be
were
per
part of
our
the same
policy,
question.
whatever our policy
We
states.
have a naming policy.
And what's that naming policy?
It's on the website. I don't know it offhand, word by word, because there's thousands of policies, but there's a policy on the website.
We name, the policy right now is we can only name someone after they're deceased.
After deceased, yeah,
Yes.
right now.
All right. So I'm going to start saying retired police officers at the schools, protecting them?
Yes, we're gonna have
All right, so-
someone at the school.
And he's getting a raise, the dude behind
Yes,
me.
and we're gonna work on his race.
Any other public comments?
Mr. Ross,
Yes. No, we're everybody's race.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samuel Marshall, 11 Hilltop Road, Edison, New Jersey.
Yeah, just bend down a little bit, yeah, you go.
Good evening, everyone. Samuel Marshall, 11 Hilltop Road, Edison. I have a lot of thinking to do about what was said tonight at the meeting, and one of the points that was brought up over the course of the past few hours was, I believe somebody on the board mentioned something about wanting to look more towards the future. And in that spirit, I'm just wondering what the current systems are in place in terms of people who want to make suggestions as to how they can contribute to different board initiatives outside of these meetings, because they aren't quite as often as people might like. They are only maybe once a month, twice a month, and some townspeople may not always get the chance to voice the full breadth of what their plans might be. And I was just wondering what positions or systems are in place for townspeople who might have a prospective plan to rectify one of the town's issues, that they can maybe contact a member of the board off hours, or if there are any office hours, things like that, maybe a Facebook Messenger thing. Is there anything like that in place for?
Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. And just one more smaller thing. I was just wondering what the exact dates for opening would be for the new Edison baseball fields and J.B. Stevens baseball fields, out of my own curiosity. Is there any set dates? It's okay if not. I was just curious is all. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
So,
yeah.
you want to address the baseball?
The baseball field, since we approved it tonight, we will make a call tomorrow to the vendor. The first step in getting the baseball field started is the engineering and storm drainage and drainage system has to be approved by the state. To what we were told at the Finance and Facilities, that takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Once that it's approved, the rug, as I call it, the turf, it takes about 60 days to be laid down. We're hoping, if we can get everything done, it could be done and finished by December or January 1.
Okay.
And be prepared to be played on for the baseball season. JP Stevens, the same thing. Right now, we don't have anything for JP. We're looking at JP for the following season, not this particular season coming up, but that's what we're looking at there. And as far as contacting any one of us, like Mr. Johnson has done, you are more than willing to email any of us. I don't think we have phone extensions, but emails we do have. And if you were asked to, particularly me, I can't speak for other board members, if you wanted me to give you a call, meet you for a cup of coffee, discuss an item that is an interest to you or an issue that is an interest to you, I think any of the board members would be willing to meet with you, like we have embraced Mr. Johnson and any of his ideas and things to make the district better.
May I ask one follow-up question?
Sure.
I do appreciate your encouragement for people to reach out to the board, but is there any situation which the board maybe crowdsources information, reaches out to the people, maybe goes the other way and asks the
Community
townspeople
Relations
what their
Committee.
thoughts would be?
Yeah, I think that's part of what Mrs. Maroney is trying to do. We met, I know, at least once or twice, the committee, and we are trying, I know, and I don't want to speak for Mrs. Maroney, but I know we're trying to get the PTOs back involved. I know Mrs. Conway has been a big proponent of that. We kind of did it away with that under Dr. O'Malley. He didn't particularly care for that committee, but I think that's an important committee, and that brings parents in, and that brings the community in. I think we also want to meet with certain community groups, to meet with them, and I think that's the way we should do it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
The setup of the Community Relations Committee, the original thought is to bring the board to each schools. So each committee has 4 members, and the thought is the board, bring the board to whatever the, 1 or 2 schools to hear the parents' concerns, so we can bring it back to the school board so we can discuss. So that was the original objective of that committee.
Yeah, we are all assigned to 2 schools, at least 2. I'm not sure if you have children or not, but that would not include you if you didn't have children, because you wouldn't be involved in a PTO or a PTA. But you are the type of people, and Mr. Johnson, no children yet, but, you also, yeah, right. And then let me talk about that before you start thinking about it. But yeah, there's a part of the community that we don't reach out to through our PTOs and PTAs, and we need to do that.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, Matt.
Matt Rebnak, ETA Vice President, 2 Ethel Road. Actually, I have 4 things. 4 things quick. Number 1, I listened to Mr. Brescher's report, and I was wondering, why isn't that done before the resolutions? Because some of the things that are mentioned on the committee report are things that eventually you vote on, and it would be nice sitting in the audience to know that in advance. In fact, I think some of the questions that came up earlier from a few people would have never possibly even come up if your report was given first. So I don't know if that's something you may want to consider, changing the order of things. It might be something to think about.
I think about that when I read it.
Yeah.
Why are you reading it? It's done already.
Okay, that was number 1. That was an easy one. All right, the second thing, I just want to make one point of clarification. Before it was thrown out about, 82% of the budget goes towards salaries, et cetera. If you read the Star Ledger yesterday, they had an article based on the expenditures around the state, the top 20. There's school districts out there that are spending $50,000 per pupil. I just punched in at a $265 million budget. I believe the number that Mrs. Contaldi gave was 16,726 students. That comes out to $15,847 per pupil, which is about $1,200 below the state average, which was listed at over $17,000. So I just want to mention that in Edison, you are still getting a pretty good bang for your buck, and we are still one of the best school districts out there, especially considering that we are the 5th largest school district in New Jersey. Number 3, and it was actually something was finally mentioned, was about the security, because this has been an ongoing thing for over a year now. In fact, it's probably closer to about a year and a half, I guess. I was part of the negotiations myself, Mr. Bowden, and Brian Ferry, our NJA rep. I just want to commend the board, Mrs. Ward and Mrs. Conway. Ms. Maroney wasn't there, I know she was away. But I also want to commend Mr. Cassane, who was in constant contact with myself and Mr. Bowden, and Mrs. Contaldi, and actually Mr. Rivera was away, but one of his colleagues. The agreement that we came to, I think, is very beneficial for the district. Again, it's saving the district money from what it would have cost to go out to the, and use the Edison, through the Edison Police. You're getting more time. And just for what the one gentleman said, if Mr. Ramos does qualify, we did put in that anyone currently in district would really be given a first opportunity as well. But I really am, I think the people will be pleased with what happened with it. And I think it's something, again, that as a cost savings, but yet it meets the needs of, the district moving forward. You got more security guard, more armed security, basically 1 per building. And more hours, et cetera. Plus, as I brought up, is they're hires of the board now. So the board has control. You don't have to go through a third party. And I think that's always important where you yourself have control over it. So again, I just want to commend the board on that. And the final thing is what happened here, but I've seen it at some other board meetings. I really think it's embarrassing when people make public attacks against each other. And really all parties. I do have to commend Mrs. Ward for saying what she did, like we need to speak in private. You know, arguing over an issue is one thing, but when it becomes personal, that's a different situation. In Mrs. Maroney's letter, there were 3 different people or groups that I thought were attacked, and then I saw attacking back. And I really think it's embarrassing. You want to air your dirty laundry, do it in private. I don't think public is really the place to do it. I know when these things have happened in the past, colleagues of mine around the school said, boy, that really looked bad. It really sheds a bad light on things. So I really hope the professionalism in the future would be maintained. You can disagree on issues, you can have your voice of opinion, but please don't make it personal, because it really shouldn't be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comments? Yes.
Bill Brunner, 215 Loring Avenue. As is mentioned before, the NJSIAA, which is New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association, in their infinite wisdom, have added another layer of playoffs, so forced every high school in the state to get rid of their Thanksgiving game. And being an old-timer and believing in tradition, you've got schools like Phillipsburg that draws 10,000 people or more to their Thanksgiving Day game against Easton, played at Lafayette Stadium. Perth Amboy and Carteret, they packed the place, standing room only. We used to have that, but unfortunately, the last 10 years or so, the folks that have moved into town don't seem to want to support the athletics of either high school. However, that being said, we are going to play Edison and J.P. Stevens next Friday, the 6th. And I think I'd like to see some Board of Education members there, somebody besides Ralph Errico. Last March, our 2 girls' basketball teams played each other in the semifinals of the county tournament.
Who was there?
I was there.
Who else?
You.
Thank you.
And you're the only one from the board. Now, you board members, you go to plays, you go to concerts, you go to band competition, you go to a lot of things, but you totally ignore sports. Well, of course, Dr. O'Malley didn't like sports either, but that's another story. It'd be nice to see some of you show up. Friday the 6th, 7 o'clock, J.P. Stevens. First game of the season, might have a decent attendance, but let's see some board members there. Even if you only stay for a quarter or a half, show your faces. So it's just you do support sports, even if you don't really do it. Just pretend you do. Thank you.
That's not true.
That's,
We go to everything.
that's all
We try to
right.
make everything.
So, other
Sure was
public
there.
comments? Yes.
Thanksgiving, no?
Yeah, I
Johnson?
went Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I know my card game. I have to talk to John Carra and Don Merker.
Tom Maroney, 107 Stephenville Parkway, Edison, New Jersey. Just to follow up, I've been a football official for nearly 40 years, and I'm not going to say the state in their infinite wisdom. When I say the schools, I guess every school in a state, whether it's the athletic director or whoever, they want a state champion. They don't want a Group 1, a Group 2, Section 1, Section 2. In order to do that, they had to add more playoff games, and in order to add more playoff games, they had to do away with the Thanksgiving game. It's as simple as that. If people don't want it, everybody tell the NJSIA, and it'll switch back.
Thank you. Yes.
Right here.
Yes, Maria.
I just like the tradition. I miss that.
Hi, Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. I just want to remind everybody that school's opening on September 4th. Just want to make sure that everybody's safe on the roads. I know some people are in a rush to drop off their kids or in a rush to go to work. Just be a little bit more mindful of all the traffic on the roads. Thank you.
Yes, Joe.
Joseph Johnson, 407 Durham Avenue. Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank everyone who's in attendance tonight. Thank you all the board members, all of the attendees, and all of the candidates who are running for the Board of Education. First, I would like to just give a shout out to Mr. Ross, the principal of Edison High. He's been extremely supportive in expanding our mentorship program, our Lena Harris Foundation mentorship program, to Edison High students this year. He has offered and suggested that we table at a football game to get more interest and to get more parents involved. He has offered also to come to back to school night, talk to some of the parents and, get to know who's actually coming to the program, and, what can we do to kind of further our exposure for the program. So I'd like to commend him. And I'd also like to shout out Patrick McDonald. Pat does so much. He sets up all these microphones, all the cameras, each and every Board of Education meeting, and his assistant as well. Thank you guys so much. You guys do so much behind the scenes work that not many people really recognize, and people kind of overlook at times. So we thank you for all that you do. We thank you for putting up all the, the videos online, and, it's just a good feeling when we're able to, look back on the video or, go back and see what we're talking about. And lastly, just for clarification, so to answer your question, Mr. Brescher, you asked if the different teams play at different times. So when I played, we would have a record of 4-4, but then other teams would have a record of 5-4 at that same time. But the difference is they don't play a Thanksgiving game. So they would play a game either earlier or they would play a game, but depending a week or, the schedules would be the same, 10 at the end of the day, but it depended on where, the schedule started. And last point of clarification as to why they did this. So the way it works was you played the first 8 games, and then the 9th game would be the consolation or playoff. So say, for example, a team made it to the playoffs, and then they would play Thanksgiving, and then they would continue the playoffs after. So the NJISAA, I believe, came up and realized that this situation was not adequate for the players' safety and was not adequate for the for the teams and officials itself. So they removed the Thanksgiving game, put it to the first game, and so you can just continue the playoffs and continue either the playoff or consolation after.
And have a week off.
Exactly, and then have the week off. Yep. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello? Yes, second run, Frank.
All right, finish up, Frank. Strong. Finish up strong.
Oh, boy. Yeah, whether we do that referendum piecemeal or whether or not we do this whole package, I think that's really the issue. And I would like to see it, of course, get passed. But there is also a trust factor that enters into it, and there are questions of an election campaign from 2017, investigations by the state, the county, and the town. And there's like a credibility gap in which I just don't think it's the right time to do it. And I don't know if there's any time for a $190 million referendum, but that's really the major point that I was trying to make, is that that I'd like to see as much get passed and as much get done to solve the overcrowded problem. But I just don't think that's the way to do it, and I just don't want to see this going down into another devastating defeat like in 2008. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why that had anything to do with the referendum, but that's your opinion. So, and we only have one shot. You know that. If we had passed it before, okay, we would not be in this situation. And the other thing is that, the towns keep being developed, overdevelopment. Something has to be stopped. Otherwise, our school cannot continue to handle this. So, this is only one shot deal. Okay, any other public comments? Yes.
I remember the second question.
Yes, okay.
I came up twice.
All right.
I came up twice. The two superintendents that you have outside, they're from out of Edison?
No, Did a search firm.
No, I understand that. You're looking for a
That is a question,
superintendent. But they're from out of Edison.
Is that it?
No. Why don't we hire Ross over there?
Mr. Ross, you want
That was the second question. I had forgotten about that.
Okay. That's your question, why we don't hire Mr. Ross?
And I'm gonna, well, he had continued on a little more. Yeah, why didn't you hire him?
That's
All
it?
all the kids
Any other
love
questions?
him.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Well, I'm waiting for you to answer.
No, I'm gonna answer all your questions in one shot.
I'm waiting for you to answer.
Just so we're clear. You make your comment or your question.
I did make my comment,
And you're done.
and I'm waiting for an answer.
Let me finish. Then you stop and you sit down. The board president responds or other board members, and then that's the end of it. It's not you ask questions, he says something, you ask another question, because that's not the point of public comment.
I know, but he used to love to interrupt me every other time, so I'm
What are you
just.
talking about? I don't even see you.
I got the
before
video
it-
from
until-
the first
until
time.
the
I
election
got
come.
the video from the first time.
Okay, so
So-
the process, whoever, I don't care who that is, in district, out of district, the process is apply first, okay? Apply to the search firm website, send your applications, go through the process. If you're picked, you're picked to the next round. If you're not, you're not. That's instead of coming here telling us we should hire so-and-so, maybe you should go tell all your friends who you think is qualified.
I just
to-
saw
to-
you
to-
attack
no,
Miss
no, no.
Maroney, and you didn't even apologize.
No,
So don't
let-
tell me about attacking anybody. I didn't attack
No,
anybody.
I'm not talking about, go on.
This
ask
is
you-
America. I'm
ask-
allowed my opinion, like
ask
Miss
your
Maroney's
friends,
allowed her
ask
opinion.
You want to listen or not?
Oh, yeah.
You want to listen to my answer or not?
The only thing you do is attack everybody that has anything to say.
I don't attack everybody. I'm telling you the
I'm-
process.
This
Stop.
is the
Would
third
you
person
stop?
over 3 people you attacked today.
I said all you need to do, tell your friends to apply, go through the process. What did I attack you for? Okay, anybody else? See none?
I also want to thank that guy for not censoring me like the town hall does. I was censored in my last town hall video. He never censors me. I love that guy too. Good thing that guy brought it up.
All right.
I was
Stand close second.
Okay.
Chill out. Chill out.
So, see none, we move to closed session.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975 permits the exclusion from the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of Township of Edison as follows. 1, the public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the herein specified subject matters. 2, the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Attorney-client privilege discussion regarding the superintendent search. 3, it anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter should be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. And 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Okay, can I have a motion? Okay. Mr. Erico, Mr. Marone.
Dr. Chen? Oh, she's not here? Okay. Mrs. Conway?
She's still on.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good answer. No, it's just yes.
She said yes.
Mr. Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mrs. Maroney?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward? Mr. Erico?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes,
Oh,
so we don't expect to come back and see you guys on September 18th. Thank you.
Thank you.